Conservatives hate protesting.
What a wonderful segue into Walkway's Rescue America rallies. One of them taking place. Yeah. No, but honestly, though, you're absolutely right about that, which is part of the reason why we are doing these rallies right now, because a major adjustment that I had to make when I did leave the left and come over to the right was that very thing. It's very, very difficult to motivate people into action on the right. Now, there are a couple factors at play, though, too, that we have to acknowledge and deal with. One, there are much more older people are conservatives than are liberals, and young people have nothing to live for. They don't care. It's like, I'm 19 years old. Let's go bash windows and let's burn stuff down. Who cares?
Go to prison for a long time.
Right. People in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s are kind of like, I have some things to live for. I don't want to necessarily jump in and do all that stuff. And there's that, but there's also they're more meek. They have a harder time, I think, going out into the streets and standing up for themselves. And what conservatives tell me all the time, and I'm really making it a huge part of my messaging, particularly this year, to rally against, is they say, well, we don't really march, we don't really demonstrate, we don't really rally, but we vote. We vote. And I'm like, well, that's fantastic. Good. I'm glad that you're voting. But while you're voting, the left is taking over every aspect of our culture.
Exactly.
They're taking over academia. They're taking over entertainment. They're taking over the media. They're taking over social media. Every aspect of, and you're losing your voice. You've pretty much lost your voice, but every single day it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And what I've been telling people, and the reason why I think that we're having a good amount of success right now with these rallies that we're doing in different cities all around the country, is I say, for those of you who don't understand the point of going to a march or going to a rally or demonstrating, think back less than 3 months ago. If somebody had told you, I'm going to run for office, am I banging?
Oh, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you're probably banging, whatever.
Okay. If somebody had told you less than 3 months ago, I'm going to run for office, and my platform is going to, I think it's really good. I think you're really going to love this. My platform is going to be, I'm going to defund the police. I don't want any police. I don't want them to have any money. I want to do, let's just have social programs and no police. People would do what you just did. They would start laughing 3 months ago.
Yep.
3 months later, we quite literally have the president, the presidential candidate, and any number of Democrat candidates around the country running on a platform of defunding the police. People are defunding the police.
Well, let's absolutely clarify this, because they play dirty games. Joe Biden was asked specifically, would you be in favor of reallocating funding from police, to outside groups, whatever? And Joe said, yes, absolutely. Later on, he said something contrary. This is a game they play where they're for both at the same time.
Yes.
So they can claim it's not true what you just said, but he was asked the direct question.
Yes.
So then they'll say, defund means literally get rid of the police. Of course, Joe Biden doesn't want that. He just said to reallocate. Then the Brookings Institute says defund just means reallocating some funds from the police to other programs. Quite literally what he was asked. They're not for anything.
Correct. Except trends, whatever happens to be trending. We didn't used to have social media, so I think it was harder to gauge the trends back then. I think now they literally go on Twitter and they're like, what's our platform today? Okay.
Today we're against Chick-fil-A. Tomorrow we're going to be, what's some other, Papa John's, where he's gone. No more pizza. Then they said the Pledge of Allegiance at the DNC.
What is it, racist now?
They literally said
that. Oh, they said, okay.
I'm like, wait, how are you going to support all of these people calling for rewriting our history with the 1619 Project? They're tearing down statues of George Washington, Jefferson, Hans Christian Heg, these heroes of the Civil War, Ulysses S. Grant, and then you're like, oh, but they should be allowed to do it. They're peaceful protesters. Now let's say the Pledge of Allegiance. What's the duplicitous, but to the most absurd degree possible.
Yes, and I made a little note earlier when we were talking, because this is another observation that has become crystal clear to me in the last year or two, being on the other side, having this new vantage point, is that Democrats, if you'll notice, are allowed to evolve. You can show footage of Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden saying that they're against gay marriage, gay people shouldn't be allowed to, and now when it trended past 50% of social acceptance, now they've evolved.
Right.
But Republicans are not allowed to evolve. If a Republican ever did anything 20, 30 years ago, whatever, then that's the way it is, and it's never going to change. And what I don't understand is, if you are a gay person, or if you're, I'm just saying that as a gay person, wouldn't you want the Republican Party to evolve? If you're so scared of homophobia and you're so scared of the Republican Party's hatred, you should want them to evolve, but they won't let them evolve. I mean, Republicans say all the time, we don't care about this stuff. I mean, we don't care. Yes, you do. You're a liar. You're just trying to... No, they really don't care anymore at all.
Have you ever watched American Dad?
Yeah.
So there's this really funny episode where it's like one of the early episodes where Stan finds out that, I forgot the name of his neighbors, they're gay and they're Republicans, so he loves them. But then when he finds out they're gay, he freaks out. But then he has a revelation. He runs to the RNC and he says, I realized something. These men didn't choose to be gay, but they did choose to be Republicans. Yeah. And that was one of the funniest things I heard. I was like, it's a really good point.
It is a good point.
I think you look at the groups like the Log Cabin Republicans back then, when the platform was considered to be anti-gay.
Yeah. Even
trying to be a part of a party that had platform positions against them allowed them to, swing the vote. It allowed them to share certain values and become more socially liberal.
Yes.
So absolutely, in order to make the political party change, you want to be involved. I think that's actually a good argument for many liberals to actually become officially Republicans, because you will make the Republican Party more liberal. Exactly. In the true sense.
Right.
In the true sense.
Yeah, and I don't think... See, and that was part of, I guess, my point, too, is that Democrats, it seems, their platform is based off of whatever is trending at that moment, even if it's 100% contradictory to whatever they believed last year or 3 months ago or whatever. Whereas I think the reason why, Republicans have kind of a PR problem is because they evolve on the things that I think do matter, like society at large evolved on racism, society at large evolved on homophobia and things like that. But the core values that Republicans have don't change. They don't. Yeah. They're about the Constitution. They're about the sovereignty of our nation. And and I don't even think that many, especially under Trump, I don't think that many conservatives are about pushing their religious beliefs or
that's changed
a lot.
Yeah. It became very libertarian.
Yeah. I was actually afraid for a long time to criticize religion when I was speaking to Republican groups, because I grew up a Catholic and went to Catholic school my whole life, so religion was very much a part of the doctrine with which I grew up and what I learned. And that's actually what taught me to be very much against religion, which I still am. But so I have no problem. I love that people have faith, even if it's a faith I don't believe in. I think faith is a beautiful thing in and of itself, but it's when you start grouping with other people and beating other people with your faith, I think it becomes a big problem.
Like what the left is doing with their dogma.
Exactly.
The cult of intersectionality.
Yes.
Getting people fired from their jobs, demanding they bow, and you can see the signs when they send emails with pronouns and stuff. I understand you want to respect, but that is a sign that you are a part of this cult, and it's growing beyond just what a cult is. I mean, I guess it's not a cult because there's no, dear leader.
Yeah.
But then what is it? A religion? A faith?
It is
non-theistic religion?
Yes, it is. It's a cultish religious. I mean, we're already living in the twilight zone enough with the masks, and then every store that you walk into, due to COVID, blah, blah, it's like they're making these announcements constantly, and you're just like, my God, twilight zone. But when I don't watch sports, I couldn't care less, but I was in a restaurant waiting for my table, and they had a basketball game on, and I saw Black Lives Matter painted on the basketball court, and I was like, this is literally like a twilight zone. We're living in a really scary, and it's Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, pretty soon, everything is, brought to you by Black Lives Matter.
There was I can't remember who tweeted this. They said their kid turned on their Xbox, and a message popped up saying, do you support, you must support Black Lives Matter. Here's a note about what it means, press X to accept.
Yes.
And a bunch of movies and outlets. After the George Floyd incident, Civics shows this massive poll. Support for Black Lives Matter skyrocketed. And something really interesting happened over the next few months. With the riots not being stopped, with Democratic politicians supporting them, opposition started to skyrocket. So right now, I think it's 37% opposition for Black Lives Matter and 49% support.
Really?
But this is it used to be a year ago, there was more opposition than support. And then over the past year, Black Lives Matter support started to go up, opposition went down. Then with George Floyd, a major drop in opposition, a major increase in support. But then with the riots, it slowly started switching back.
Yeah.
And that's why I think they tried to blame Trump for all the violence, but it was helping him. Trump sending in the feds to defend the courthouse in Portland. People want law and order.
Right.
We have a Rasmussen poll showing 50% of people want the police to crack down on the riots. All of a sudden now they're doing the pledge. Joe Biden comes out and says, "Oh, these people should be found and arrested." Too little, too late.
Yes.
I mean, what's Joe Biden's trying to steal Trump's platform now? Build back better. China bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and we're living in this bizarre time where, on a daily basis, we're seeing violence like I never dreamed I would ever see taking place in the streets of this country. And it's not a random incident. This is happening every single day now. Yet the left is hanging on to this narrative of, white supremacy and the violence of the right. I just posted on Twitter the other day, thank God for those guys back in 2016, 2017 that were holding those torches, because if it wasn't for those 16 guys, the left would have nothing to hang on to. We're
sarcastically.
Sarcastically.
They're going to clip that one.
No, sarcastically. I'm saying thank God for the left that they have that.
Right.
Because literally, we still have to look at those images from 2016 of those 12 guys with torches, and they're like, "Oh, the violence of the right." I'm like, I can't even open my Twitter for 5 seconds without watching somebody having the hell beaten out of them, or somebody's, and they act like it's not even happening.
I love how they play this false narrative where it's like, far right extremists have been responsible for 436 deaths in the past 10 years, and Antifa is responsible for 0. I love how they just arbitrarily pick groups and then act like this is the metric by which they're good or bad. So mine is Antifa is responsible for 7,336 violent assaults, and Tim Pool is responsible for 0.
So you're perfect.
Yes. It's like, look, you can pick any group and any metric, and Greenpeace is responsible for 0. It's like,
right.
Well, Greenpeace does nonviolent civil disobedience, but I can compare any group I want to any group and then choose a random metric to make something sound good.
Absolutely.
Just because there's extremists who kill people doesn't mean Antifa is good. The rioting from Black Lives Matter over the past several months killed 30 people. And they act like it's not happening. And Joe Biden gets up. You see what he did at the DNC? It's very clever. Because they're starting to figure out it's bad for them when they lie about the Very Fine People hoax, he played a semantic game. He said, "I want you to remember all those people marching in Charlottesville with the torches and the look in their face. And I want you to remember what Donald Trump said. They were very fine people on both sides." Mm-hmm. He skips over a bunch of key context.
Of course.
So here's one moment, and here's Trump saying some words.
Right.
I want you to remember. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about what those people looked like and what they were doing. And now I want you to remember what Donald Trump said when he tried chocolate ice cream for the first time. He said, "This is great." You see, it's a totally random. It's like out of context. It has nothing to do with anything.
Right. Yes.
Trump said that the Nazis should be condemned totally.
Yes.
And he said there were some people that just didn't want to see the statue come down.
Right.
Regular people.
Yes.
He also said there were troublemakers on the other side and some good people too.
Yes. Yes.
So I tweeted this earlier. I'm like, if the Very Fine People hoax were real, Trump was saying Antifa was good people.
Right.
How come the media doesn't say that?
It's an excellent point.
It's only the right wing, even though he arguably said both. He said both sides.
Right.
Trump supported Antifa.
Right.
Imagine if that was the narrative. No, they can't use that though.
Why is it that when a handful of legitimate, white supremacists, whatever, go out into public and do something, which again is incredibly rare. We rarely hear about this actually happening.
It's just that they're really small. There's not a lot of them.
There's not a lot of them. Yeah. Well, but doesn't that kind of fly in the face of the white supremacy takeover narrative of the left?
Do you know what Vox wrote?
They write a lot of stuff.
Something like, it was like, 20 million Americans hold alt-right views or some ridiculous. It's like, dude, I think it was Ricky Gervais, I'm not sure who said, it's okay to have things in common with really bad people, just not the really bad things.
Right.
He's like, he said something really funny, like, I enjoy, he said, I'm an atheist, and I don't know if that's true. He said something like, I enjoy vanilla ice cream and petting my dog, just like Hitler.
Right.
Like, that's the joke.
Yeah.
It's like, those things are, look, you know who else drank water? Hitler did. Oh.
If we're talking about the KKK, in the 1920s, the KKK's membership peaked at about 4 million members in the in the KKK, and at that time, the population of America I may screw this up, was either 140 million or about 180 million. Let's split the difference. 160 million, something like that. So 4 million out of 140, 160 million people were in the KKK. Today, the population of the United States is 328 million people, and there's about 5,000 people in the KKK. 5,000.
So I've looked over the numbers from like the ADL. If you want to be kind to that number and expand it to include peripheral white supremacy groups, the total number I think is like 12,000.
Wow.
12,000 people in a country of hundreds of millions.
Right.
Now, to be fair, I don't think Antifa is particularly large either. I'd estimate, I'd say their numbers are probably comparable. However, is the media defending and protecting Antifa when they go out and they beat people?
Yes.
And is Black Lives Matter a major national organization with a top-down structure that receives massive donations through Act Blue and that has people marching through streets for 85 days in Portland screaming Black Lives Matter, smashing things, and when looters romp through Chicago, a week or two ago, smashing up stores, shooting into windows to try and rob Gucci. And then Black Lives Matter literally came out the next day saying looting is reparations and we want these people freed. There's a big difference between what Black Lives Matter has been doing with 30 dead throughout the riots and the white supremacist groups that are fractured, that aren't really, organizing anything substantial. You see, here's what I try to explain to people. The far right, or whatever that's supposed to mean, I don't think it means anything. It's just what the media says. Because if you go to the ADL's website, they give you like 4 definitions of far right. Anti-government, white supremacists. That doesn't make sense. But whatever these extremists are, they're few and far between. They're extremely unwell. They're violent. And they commit extreme acts that capture the news cycle for a week plus. Antifa goes out and does low-tier terror, where they beat people and shake them down, threaten them, smash windows. Look, if you went outside and some dude in a hoodie punched you in the face, it's not going to make CNN. But because they do this every day, dozens of times throughout the country, it's extreme pressure put on regular people and businesses. They know it exists, but the media never covers it because it never crosses the line. Recently, there was a dude in Portland. You may have seen the video. He kicked that guy in the face.
Yes.
That crossed the line.
Yes.
All of a sudden, it started to bubble up in the conversation. And what happened? Black Lives Matter, I think it was Black Lives Matter, denounced it, saying it was discrediting their message.
Interesting.
But they try to avoid crossing the line, but still doing enough damage to make sure you fall in line.
Right.
In Louisville, they're going to downtown businesses and demanding that they pay to their approved groups. And when this is legit. When they went to one guy, a Cuban immigrant, and said, "Pay up or else," he said, "Or else what?" And they smashed a flower pot. Like they're literally
mafia. I mean,
that's what he said. That's what he said.
Yeah.
And so this all of this stuff.
You're watching the Timcast show, brought to you by Black Lives Matter.
No, but you're watching the Boston Red Sox. You're watching the NBA. You're watching the MLB. I don't want to watch that stuff, man. Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. If you want to catch the full show, tune in to this channel, subscribe, hit the like button, or check us out on iTunes and Spotify, and we will soon have this podcast up for free on all podcast platforms. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all in the next episode.